The next morning, Sebastian was over the moon.
I knew it. I knew you two would warm up to each other. Now give me a big hug, will you?
Though Ominous held on to his grudge a little longer, the dynamic in our group changed completely. I soon realised that a major part of being in the Undercroft gang was enduring Sebastian and Ominous bicker about everything.
Of course you can cast Accio on humans, if you're so inclined.
Don't be ridiculous, Sebastian. You'd be using it on clothing, to be precise. You know it doesn't work properly on people.
I enjoyed every second of it.
Sometimes it's very tiring babysitting those two. You'll see,
Anne remarked as we entered the classroom. The summoning charm was, in fact, the subject of today's charms lesson, but we spent nearly half an hour summoning books out of each other's hands, which got boring quickly. My gaze wandered, searching for more exciting things to summon while Anne struggled to complete the task.
Oh, rats!
She groaned, kicking the book back toward me for the 11th time.
This is really not my thing, I tell you. Can you stand a bit closer?
Accio, I said lazily, watching it float neatly into my hand. Anne rolled her eyes and returned to her position with the stiff posture of someone unaccustomed to failure.
Accio! Accio!
My focus drifted again. Professor Ronan beamed as he strolled between student pairs. He gave an approving nod toward Natty and Gareth, who were successfully summoning smaller pieces of furniture. He chuckled at Ominous and Sebastian's even more ambitious attempt to summon each other, likely to settle their earlier argument.
Accio, Sebastian!
Ominous called. Sebastian didn't budge.
See? It doesn't work.
Didn't you say it works on clothing then?
Sebastian retorted.
Seems we're both wrong.
Maybe.
Ominous muttered.
But I summoned you, not your clothes, so my point still stands.
Why shouldn't it work, though? If magic could substitute his eyesight, surely summoning a person wasn't so far-fetched.
Accio Ominous!
Sebastian said again. Nothing happened.
He's like a walking radar.
Sebastian's voice echoed in my head.
Accio Ominous!
He had looked into my eyes last night. What else had he seen? His eyes. Accio Ominous. A high-pitched yelp snapped me out of my trance.
Merlin, what in the world?
Ominous shrieked, flailing against the invisible force that dragged him across the room, a straight magical path determining his direction. A path pointed at me. The spell's force rippled through the air, pulling Ominous toward me with a surge of magic that made my fingertips tingle. His knees buckled from the impact of his landing and the effort of stopping himself from colliding with me. I didn't even have time to blink. Controlled by reflexes and reflexes alone, my left hand shot out and grabbed his tie. Ominous's face halted inches from mine, close enough that I could feel his breath on my skin.
Nina?
He whispered, like he'd known it was me all along, as if there was no chance it could have been anyone but me. Hey, was all I could muster. For a second, I was grateful for the laughter erupting around us, drowning out any further, possibly mortifying utterances. Ominous stood frozen, clearly waiting for me to let go of his tie. My relief twisted into panic. My fingers, trembling with the weight of what I'd just done, slowly loosened their grip, and as the fabric slipped from my grasp, reality rushed back in. Furiously, I stared at my hand, traitorous, reckless, handling Ominous's clothes with the same conviction as Anne's book. A piece of clothing so close to him, so close to his neck, so intimate, so personal. Heat rose to my cheeks and my legs tensed, ready to bolt.
Holy cricket, Nina, that was fantastic!
Sebastian appeared out of nowhere, practically bouncing with energy.
We were just talking about it, and then you whoosh, and he went flying across the...
He broke into laughter.
That was amazing.
He gasped through his giggles. The words tumbled from my lips before I could stop them. Oh, Ominous, I'm so sorry. I don't even know why that happened. I didn't think it would actually do anything. I was just playing it out in my head.
Nina.
Ominous said gently, too gently to slow me down. And you were talking so loud and I...
Nina.
He repeated.
It's okay.
Finally, I looked up. I'd never seen his face so close. His features were soft, so tender. A flash of red around his nose, a faint smile reaching his eyes. For a moment, He seemed to dwell in the space between us, not even noticing the lack of it. As Sebastian's laughter faded, the world returned to him.
Well, I suppose I was right, wasn't I?
He said, gesturing at his rumpled tie before flattening it back into his shirt.
If you say so.
Sebastian replied, wiping a tear from his eye.
I'll give you that one.
Amusement still danced on his face, yet I caught a flicker in his gaze as it shifted between Ominous and me. A subtle crease formed between his brows, brief but undeniable.
Extraordinary, Ms. Carve.
Professor Ronan exclaimed from behind me.
As Mr. Gaunt correctly assumed, Accio only works on clothing, not on people themselves. But your summoning charm was so powerful, it caught on his tie, lifting him off the ground. Quite impressive for a 5th year.
More laughter swelled through the room. I barely heard it. The professor's praise circled around my head, failing to penetrate my conscious thoughts. All I could focus on were the wrinkles creasing Ominous's otherwise immaculate uniform. Wrinkles that I had caused. "Thank you, Professor," I muttered, trying to focus on the smile still tugging at Ominous's lips.
You all did exceptionally well today.
Professor Ronan announced.
For the rest of the period, we'll head to the forecourt and play a few rounds of Summoner's Court.
There was an outburst of approval, followed by the bustle of students packing up. I moved slowly, still weighed down by the memory of my reckless summoning and everything it had exposed. I felt dizzy. As we exited the classroom, my thoughts remained stubbornly stuck on the image of Ominous smoothing out his tie with long, graceful fingers. The look on his face when he'd whispered my name. So soft, so unguarded, so full of change.
Hello, Earth to Nina.
Sebastian's voice was a distant sound, muffled by the roar of blood rushing in my ears. He had to snap his fingers to reel me back.
Merlin, you look like a ghost.
He chuckled. The way he squeezed my arm, pulling me to his chest, was grounding. He saw right through me, knew me, maybe even better than I did. But there was something else in his voice, something I wasn't ready to name.
Don't you worry about it, okay?
He said gently.
You can tell when he's angry.
And that was that. Summoner's Court, as I quickly learned, was a competitive game in which players used Accio to move heavy leather balls across a wooden platform. The goal was to pull the ball as far as possible without sending it over the edge. The closer it landed to you, the higher the score.
Basically,
Sebastian explained, tugging me across the lawn like he'd cast a summoning charm on me.
you've got to stop it right at the edge. That's the tricky part.
I noticed he kept a slight but noticeable distance from Ominous. I had to turn my head to spot him among the blur of fluttering house robes behind us. When Professor Ronan split us into pairs, Sebastian's hand shot up immediately, his expression suddenly serious. I ended up with Gareth, which was fair given our equal summoning skill. But I'd have preferred dueling Sebastian. He knew how to make a challenge feel like something more. To be fair, Gareth was excellent. We tied 4 times before I finally secured a win. I had a wonderful time. Ominous stayed on the lawn, wand in hand, content to observe. Not even Anne could convince him to join.
Come on, Ominous, I completely suck at this, she called. Even if you need a second to feel where the ball is, I'm sure you could beat me.
I'm enjoying myself right here, thank you very much.
He replied, voice smooth and relaxed. That same quiet satisfaction he'd worn while eating the chocolate bar. What's he so happy about? I mumbled as Sebastian pushed past me to switch places, carefully avoiding my gaze.
Apparently, he's not the only blind person around.
He muttered. Before I could reply, he snapped,
Accio!
and the game continued.